Hey TCS TV viewers, it's Dave and Evelyn from the Camera Store. Today we have an early hands-on look at Sony's latest A7C.
Today we have a hands-on look at Sony's latest full-frame camera, the A7C. It's in a compact body that looks very similar to their APS-C sensor cameras, the A6000 series.
The catch though, it has the same 24 megapixel full-frame sensor that's found in the A7 III. And they also have a few tricks, including real-time autofocus. Sony has made the A7C and they've put it into a very unique spot in the Sony lineup, and I'm not really sure if I'm thrilled by it or not.
I'm excited about this camera, and we're going to talk about some of the pros and cons. We're going to talk about the ergonomics, the physical features, the performance, as well as some of the video specs.
Let's start with the physical part of this camera.
Physical.
Okay. Now, right off the bat, the grip itself is different than that on the 6600. 6600 feels a bit beefier, right? Seems like they've refined the grip a little bit. It doesn't sort of extend outwards a little bit more, but I do like they actually have the big battery, which is fantastic.
Yes, so this battery is actually about double the CEPA rating of a lot of current mirrorless cameras that have recently come out. And so it can have about 729 images with the CEPA rating, and of course, normally you can get a lot more out of it.
Now, I am happy it does have a viewfinder on it. I do like it on a bright sunny day.
It has one.
Unlike today, but the viewfinder itself, we're 2.69 million dots of resolution, and it feels like it's a smaller viewfinder. It's not as big and juicy of a viewfinder.
Yes, nice big battery, small, kind of underwhelming viewfinder, but I'm glad that it has one. It also has a fully articulating flip screen, which is nice for doing different angles of photo, but also for video and for doing self-shooting as well if you're a vlogger.
I certainly do appreciate that.
Yeah, I also find that the physical feel of this camera is quite nice. This is the silver version, which kind of gives it a sexier look. And then the new material that they use to make this camera is a little bit more rugged. It feels really good. And this has good weather sealing on it too. So Ivy just woke up. She's going to help us talk about the physical features of the A7C.
Hey, Ivy, what do you think about cameras with a single card slot?
No
Unimpressed.
Unimpressed. Yeah, I think this does position it as more of an entry point to the full frame lineup. It's kind of designed more for enthusiasts, for vloggers, and so not as much of a professional camera.
Yeah, I like that there's no door on the handle itself. It's much more efficient. All the ports are on the side of the camera now, including the headphone jack, the microphone jack, and the card slot.
Yeah, it also has a micro HDMI port as well, and then a USB-C port so that you can charge the camera remotely when you're out and about.
Just be mindful, the articulating screen will interfere when you have things plugged into those ports.
Yeah, we should also mention that this camera does not have a pop-up flash, just like the A6600. However, it does have a hot shoe, and so if you want to pop a flash on it or some audio equipment, you have that handy on the top of the camera.
We wanted something to kind of push the autofocus on this camera. So we came out to Drumheller, not too far from Calgary, to Dinosaur Downs racetrack, where they were having a bunch of racers, and it was a lot of fun. And it really put this camera through its paces, which was nice. Now, I've always been frustrated with the A7 III because it doesn't have real-time autofocus tracking, and that's such a key feature in Sony cameras. The A7C does have that, and I really appreciate that. We also have 10 frames per second with continuous autofocus. That really came in handy today. If you haven't had a chance to try out a Sony camera with its real-time autofocus tracking, you owe it to yourself to try it out. It is phenomenal to experience it. It makes shooting much trickier subjects easier to photograph. Real-time autofocus in the Sony cameras is fantastic. And on the A7C, they've made it incredibly easy to get to. It's a single button push programmed right out of the box. Now I don't have to go to the menu and set it up. I can simply press the AF button on the back, and I'm in real-time autofocus tracking. Today at the racetrack, I've shot almost exclusively with real-time autofocus tracking. Once you lock onto the subject, it tracks it throughout the frame, and it makes shooting, racing, or anything that's aggressive autofocusing very easy to work with. Shooting cars racing around a track, it does a fantastic job of, but it also is great if I'm shooting portraits in a much more casual environment that locks onto the face and the eye extremely well. Along with a brand new camera body, we also have a new lens from Sony. This is the 28-60 4-5.6 lens. Now it is their kit. It is collapsible, so when you put it into your bag, it is extra compact, so you do have to twist it out. There's a warning on the back of the screen that tells you, extend your lens.
Manual extension, yeah.
Right? And it's a decent little lens. It's a good little starter lens to find out.
Yeah, and it is a proper mount. It's not a plasticky mount like you thought it might be, but this is a full frame lens, and it's nice with the full frame sensor, you're able to really take advantage of those full frame lenses But because Sony has the one mount system, you can still use your APS-C lenses. You just have a crop, and same thing goes the other way. If you keep your A6000 series camera, if you have one, you can use your full frame lenses on your APS-C body as well.
When it comes to the image quality of the A7C, there's really no surprises here. It's the same sensor we find in the A7 III. It's a 24 megapixel full frame sensor. It's a natural progression if you are shooting with a crop sensor camera to move into a full frame sensor. We get better low light performance, and I personally love the aesthetics that full frame give me. We shot a lot of action of the cars racing around the track, but the shots that I really like are in the pits. It's getting to know the drivers. And I love this shot, for instance, where I have the grandfather and his granddaughter. This guy's been racing since 1980, and his daughter just turned 16, just got her real driver's license, and now she's barreling around a track in a race car. It's a great moment, and I love being able to capture it with a full frame sensor. The full frame sensor really allows me to separate my foreground and background and allows me to get a really nice image.
I think that this camera would make an excellent compact hybrid camera with full frame capabilities. It has a lot of great features like shooting 4K 30. It's 420 8-bit internal and 422 8-bit externally. The most important thing is that this has real-time tracking autofocus with eye detection for video. It also allows you to do nice smooth transitions, and I like that it's so compact and lightweight that it would balance really well on a gimbal or just be an excellent run and gun style video camera with that 5-axis image stabilization. I love that we have a microphone jack, a headphone jack, the fully articulating screen, and of course the hot shoe on the top of the camera to be able to rack your audio equipment. I think that this camera would just be an excellent choice if you're someone that wants to create both photos and video and still wants to travel extremely light. Overall, Dave, I've had a lot of fun shooting this camera today. I like that it's a nice lightweight package, and I think that it has a lot of good features in it that make it a good step into the full frame lineup for Sony.
I think it's a very good stepping stone as well. You have to realize, right, the viewfinder is not as nice if you step up. Can you live with a single card slot? That's a personal choice for you guys.
Yeah, but I think it has enough of the features. You get the real-time tracking autofocus, you get a lot of the best tech. You can shoot 10 frames per second, you get the 4K 30 video. I mean, it is a fully featured camera with just a few limitations that make it kind of the more entry-level camera.
I think it's certainly going to check off a bunch of boxes for most people. A lot of people never need 10 frames per second, but they want the full frame camera.
But I like that they did think about things like sustainability with the longer lasting, bigger battery. Even though this is a more compact camera, like the A6600, they've maintained that battery. And so I'm happy with that. The one thing that I'm quite disappointed in is that we're not seeing the new menu system that the A7S III released. That menu system is so much better. It's visual, it's very intuitive, and this old menu system just isn't as good.
As skeptical as I was when I heard about this camera and finally got my hands on it, it's kind of grown on me. It's got some really good key features. The full frame sensor at the heart of it is a big advantage. The real-time autofocus tracking I really like, and if you're not a professional needing dual card slots, fine. We have one card slot, it works great. I wish it had a nicer viewfinder, but
yes.
I do appreciate the articulating
screen.
screen.
But it has one, it has a viewfinder.
And I do appreciate the articulating screen.
Yeah, and it feels a lot better than I was expecting. The only ergonomical, is that a word? The only thing that I found is that with the dials, there's only the two on the back. There's not one on the front. And so when we were switching back and forth between the A7 III and this camera, I'm like, I want that front dial, it's missing, and I miss that. But the dials themselves do feel nice.
Well, it looks like they've simplified the layout, they've streamlined the camera body. It works quite well, and I think this for trying to bait people into kind of moving into from a crop sensor to a full frame, I think they've done a good job with this camera. It's going to be interesting to see how it's received in the market.
Yeah, and of course that leads us to say, we want to know what you guys think. Is this the camera for you? Does it check enough boxes? Are you still leaning towards one of the other A-series cameras? Let us know by commenting below.
Make sure you follow us on Instagram.
And if you're new to the channel, please subscribe and hit that notification bell so we can catch you again very soon. Thanks for watching, guys. If you liked what you saw and you want to watch more, click up here to see our most recent video. And if you like the A7C and you're in Canada, you want to support us, click down here to shop at the camera store.